you how I start making this earring. And this earring I made myself. And this earring is the one I based this off. I bought this at a powwow last year, and I taught myself how to make this one from different videos on the internet. I bought a book, but it didn't help, so I ended up having to watch a lot of different videos to learn how to piece together each piece of information to make this. And just, you know, like a disclaimer, I guess, is I want everybody to know I did not know how to make this at all. Like, it was so stressful even wanting to thread the needle. I didn't know, and I obsessed about, you know, like just worrying about how to make it. And that's why I'm making this video, because I want to inspire other people to know that even with zero experience and zero outside help from, like, you know, a friend or whoever, because I see a lot of, when I was looking through the comments, I saw a lot of people who had the same issue. They would say, you know, they didn't have anybody in their community who could help them, so that's why they were on YouTube trying to figure out how to make these things. So that's why I'm making this video, because I want to help others learn how to do this easier than it was for me, because it took me for this, it ended up being well over a week for the entire process, but most of it was just having to learn the hard way and making a lot of mistakes, and it took a lot of time to learn from scratch how to do it. So in this video I'm going to show you how I make this from the beginning, and I'll do different sections for each part, but that's what this video is. It's just teaching you how to make this from start to finish, which is going to include how to thread your needle, because that was a big issue for me for some reason. Like, I know how to put thread through a needle, but I didn't know if you had to do a knot or something, so that part stressed me out. Well, let's get started. So first thing you're going to need is your thread, and in the supplies I wrote you needed, for the one I'm using, is a size B Nemo thread or Nemo thread, whatever you want to call it, and then your scissors and beeswax. This isn't super necessary, but it does help because I think it can help your thread from fraying, because you will find throughout this process that even with the beeswax, this thread starts to like pull apart from itself, and it can become difficult to work with. So using this helps coat the thread and make it stronger. And then your needle, I don't remember what size needle this is off the top of my head, just realized that I didn't put the needle in the supplies list. I'll put that in the description below. But for this size earring that we're making, you want to just use as much thread as possible, because you will run out if you don't use enough. And I know it's frustrating working with a lot of thread, but it's also frustrating trying to tie more thread onto your existing thread. So it just depends which problem you want to have. But for me, I want to use as much as I can. I would rather have extra than not enough. So the videos I watch, they talk about using arm's length. And for the first part of this, we're going to be making this top part, which is made from what's called brick stitch. And this, even though it doesn't look that big, it's going to take a lot of thread. And if I remember correctly, I'd probably, let's just do 6 arms lengths worth and see where that gets us. So that's going to be, you take your thread and you just hold your bobbin in the middle and pull out to the side, which is why I have the camera angle like this, so you could visually see it, because I noticed a lot of videos don't show you these very beginning steps, which for me was important. So I imagine there's other people out there who need this help as well. So we did 1, we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And forgive me for my awkwardness on camera. I'm not used to this, but I'm trying really hard to step out of my comfort zone so I can help other people as well as help myself grow. So now that we got that, you'll cut your string Now you got your string, and the next step will be to pull on the string a little bit. So you'll go from the beginning, and then you're just stretching it out. You don't want to pull so hard you break it. Pull enough to try and loosen the tension, so see it's not as tight as anymore. So you'll do that all the way to the end, and you can do this 2 or 3 times, and it just makes it easier to work with, because when it's this springy, it tangles on itself easier. So you'll do that. When we reach the end, we'll go back. It's pretty easy. It's not that hard, which is also why I wanted to do this video, to take a lot of the stress and fear out of it for people like myself who really struggled with the anxiety. See, look, it already knotted on itself. That's why this step is so important. So when you get a knot, it's just important to go really slow and figure out what happened. So it looks like it already knotted pretty tightly, and I just cut my nails today, unfortunately, so this is going to be a little bit difficult. I'm not sure if I want to pull on it, if that would make the knot worse. Let's see. I'm going to take my needle and try and poke it through one of the holes in the knot and loosen it up somewhere. There, see? Came apart. Now we can look at the knot and see what else needs to be done to pull it apart. So, there we go. Now the knot's gone. You see, that's why these simple steps are really important. Making sure that the thread does not get super easily tangled. So I'm going to go all the way back to the front, or the end, whatever, to the end of the thread and pull again. But don't go too fast, because it ends up knotting on itself pretty easily. Especially when you're working with so much thread, it's even easier. So now that we got a couple passes of pulling on it, now you can stretch it a little more with your beeswax. You're going to coat your thread with the beeswax. So you just put it on top and pull. You don't have to be super aggressive, just enough to pull it through on top of the beeswax chunk. And you'll see that it's a lot looser with this. It's just adding on to stretching the thread and strengthening it, and it's just good for this type of beadwork. So do that. Also, it smells kind of good. Almost done. I only do this one time because I don't want it to be super thickly coated with the beeswax, just enough. So now that we got all of our thread, we're going to move on to the beading. So the first part, like I said, is brick stitch. And for that, well, I guess I got too ahead of myself. We got to thread the needle now. To do the beadwork, you got to get the needle in there. So with the needle, this needle head is so small, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera. Let me see. Let's see if I can focus it. I don't know if it's going to focus on it. But you'll find the eye of your needle, and what makes it easier to thread is holding the thread really close to the end. It makes it stiff, and that makes it easier to push through the needle. See, I did it on the first try, just with that method. Now, here, this was a big mystery part for me. Nobody was showing this step, which is so simple. It's not complicated, but it stressed me out that I didn't know what was going on. So all you do when you thread your needle, once you get the thread through the needle, you're not going to make a knot or anything. You just pull the thread and make what they call a tail. And just do a long enough tail to where your needle's not going to come unthreaded really easily. Because if you make this really short, it's going to be super easy for this thread to get pulled out of the needle which is just a pain in the butt. It's annoying. So that's all you have to do for that. Now your needle and thread's ready to go, and you're going to get your beads now to start on the brick stitch. So for this, you are starting at the bottom, and you start with the first 2 beads. So for me, this is the 2 pink beads. So I'm going to pick up my 2 pink beads. And you can do this with seed beads, but as a beginner I found it easier to work with the bugle beads because they're larger, and it was easier to do the brick stitch with these than the seed beads because they're easier to handle and thread and to work with on the brick stitch. So you're going to thread 2 of these together, one at a time. You got it, and you pull it down, and you'll pull this all the way down to the end of your thread. And when I'm threading beads, I put my needle somewhere secure, so this is just poked through my pants. And you'll pull it all the way down to the bottom of your thread, and like the beginning, where the needle's at, you'll leave a little bit of a tail before the end. You don't want to go all the way to the end. Leave like a tail, just like you did with the needle. And you'll keep your fingers there to keep the beads from falling off the end. Keep the tail. I'm going to switch the angle of the camera now, since now we don't need the full body visual. Let's see. No, okay. So go up through this bead, the first bead, and leave that one alone. You'll pull your thread through. Make sure to hang on to that tail. Hold that. Where's the tail at? Okay, there's the tail. And pull the thread. Keep pulling. Where is this? Okay. Now, let's see. Now, okay. And there's the second bead. When you pull this string, and you keep pulling, it gets closer and closer. It's going to join the other bead sideways next to it. And that is the very start of your brick stitch right there.